For a century, Gulf states treated security as a commodity purchased from the West. But relying on outside patrons created a precarious dependency. The fragility of this arrangement became obvious in 2019. Massive energy installations were hit by Iranian-backed attacks, and despite the scale of the target, Washington declined to meaningfully react. Regional leaders often point to the 1991 liberation of Kuwait as proof of the American commitment. But that intervention happened because it served U.S. interests during a unique moment of unipolarity. It doesn't tell us what Washington will do when American and Gulf interests diverge. Today, unpredictable political leadership in the United States leaves the Gulf in an impossible position. A commander-in-chief is as likely to take any deal he can call a victory as he is to escalate a conflict, and in either scenario, the Gulf states lose. The way out requires abandoning the old assumption. Security cannot be bought from unreliable patrons. It must be built at home as a native capability if the region is going to survive the coming geopolitical reset. Step 1 is a total pivot in military optimization. For decades, Gulf forces have been structured for diplomatic signaling and maintaining partnerships. That has to end. Militaries must now be retuned for the hard demands of actual warfighting. Before building new systems, we have to verify the baseline. There are already pockets of excellence across the Gulf. Specialized combat units and missile defense operators are highly proficient and rank among the most battle-tested in the world. The first major capability gap to close is maritime security. Gulf states are heavily dependent on maritime exports and face persistent mining threats in the Strait of Hormuz, yet they lack world-class native mine-hunting fleets. The common mistake here is waiting for international partners to do the work. In recent operations, the UK retired its mine hunters early, and the US operated its own ships thousands of miles away. Outside powers will always prioritize their own strategic timelines over regional needs. The second critical gap is the defense of dispersed industrial assets. Securing expansive refineries and the personnel running them requires a cohesive architecture designed specifically to counter asymmetric threats. To do this, installations must implement 3 specific layers of drone defense. First, establish an electronic warfare dome to scramble incoming signals. Second, deploy layered kinetic interceptors to shoot down threats. Finally, install hardened physical shielding around critical infrastructure. The Gulf should absorb the counter-drone tactics currently tested in Ukraine. Defeating agile, asymmetric technology requires adapting low-cost, effective methods to neutralize small payloads before they reach their targets. There is a temptation to ask Washington to simply finish the job against Iran, but the historical record shows that betting on a total regime collapse through pressure alone is a failing strategy. The Islamic Republic has survived an 8-year war, decades of sanctions, and sustained bombing campaigns. Because drone production is dispersed by design, the technology is too diffuse and dual-purpose to be policed through traditional inspection regimes. Complete prohibition is out of reach, making legacy defense systems inadequate on their own. By systematically filling these specific gaps domestically, the Gulf makes a crucial transition. It stops being a vulnerable export zone and becomes a hardened, defensible theater. Now we move to regional integration. The goal is not a total political union, an objective the region has shown it cannot produce. Instead, the strategic alternative is to bypass the broken center and build a robust mesh network of task-specific bilateral alliances. This web of functional coordination connects states based on specific needs, like maritime security or drone defense. Real-time early warning protocols instantly update neighboring radar systems when a launch is detected. Joint drills and tracking, interceptions, and hardening ensure the network holds under pressure. The key indicator of success is seamless operational flow. Functional integration means tracking data and alerts pass across borders without requiring prior high-level political consensus. This shift towards sovereign coordination is being driven internally. Administrative leadership within the Gulf monarchies recognizes that true independence requires building these domestic systems. It also requires continuous diplomatic engagement with neighboring rulers. A functional coalition means every participating monarchy brings distinct resources to the table to build a shared statecraft. We have to account for recent history. Bilateral military coordination must be resilient enough to survive temporary political disputes or blockades between members. Operational security cannot halt during diplomatic freezes. When states share early warning data and defend critical ports together, they transform the Gulf into an integrated economic zone. The cost of conflict is then borne by all parties, creating an environment where belligerence becomes too expensive, even for external actors like Iran. This functional cooperation delivers practical effects without demanding an impossible political union. It marks the start of a new regional order, the Gulf's Westphalian moment. With a credible mesh network and hardened domestic defenses in place, the Gulf achieves its strategic payoff. The monarchies can negotiate a comprehensive regional treaty from a position of strength rather than dependency. This enables a calculated reset, a phased U.S. military withdrawal over 5 years. By transitioning authority over regional airbases, the Gulf removes a major structural cause of Iranian insecurity, while keeping the infrastructure intact should a serious threat return. By offering the prize of an American withdrawal, the Gulf states gain necessary leverage, securing wide-ranging regional concessions, like phased relief from international sanctions and verified constraints on nuclear programs. The reality is straightforward. The United States will leave the region eventually, regardless of what the monarchies prefer. The only question is whether the Gulf shapes the terms of that departure or is shaped by them. This comes back to the core lesson of the past century. Security isn't a commodity to be brokered, it's a capability to be built. By following this blueprint, the Gulf states can stop waiting for an outside power to deliver an outcome that serves them. Instead, they can step out from the shadow of external patrons and forge a durable, self-reliant regional order.